Hi folks, welcome to Dragon's Teeth. Today we're talking sheds, shopping and stage 2. So yes, I'm filming from the shed now. I've got enough space in here to do my filming. Still a little bit of work to do. As you may remember, the shed was absolutely rammed with stuff. A lot of old junk, a lot of old bits and pieces. I took some stuff to the skip, put other stuff on eBay, and I've managed to clear virtually all of that out. Now, not totally, because behind the screen here, my new backdrop, hope you like it, behind there's still a lot of boxes and bits and pieces and things that need sorting out, but I would say we're about 3/4 of the way there now. So once I'd cleared all that junk out, I repainted, we put up some panels on the ceiling, we had some bare bits of ceiling in here. And really the only job remaining as far as the actual shed itself goes is putting up this foil insulation, which we're going to be doing over the next couple of days. Once all that is finished, I'll get all my lighting and filming equipment properly set up. It's all still a little bit ad hoc at the moment, so the lighting still isn't quite there. But I'm going to be putting up some rails along the sides of the walls here, getting some new lights, fixing all those in and everything else. More about that later on. And of course, once I've done all that, I'll set up my painting area as well. I've actually got a bit of old music equipment that I've managed to convert into a painting desk. So once I've got all that ready, I'll show you how that all works as well. And of course, the final thing is to get some space for gaming, which is probably going to be the back half of the shed. So once I've had that second clear out and tidied everything up there, I'll get a table set up, again get the lighting sorted, and we'll be ready to go for some actual gaming. That's the shed done then. Let's get on to the important stuff, the shopping. You may have seen that a couple of weeks ago a group of Bedford gladiators went up to Leeds to visit the Fiasco 23 Wargame show, and of course we took the opportunity to walk across the square for a visit to the Leeds Armouries Museum as well. So a great day out and an excellent show, and of course if you're at a Wargame show it's almost compulsory to do some shopping, right? I did get some books which I'll come on to in a moment, and I got some figures as well. It was interesting, it was quite different from the Peterborough show I went to the other month. There were a lot of 3D printed figures. At Leeds there were a lot of small companies who are making their own figures, so a lot of metal miniatures, and I did buy some nice sets of fantasy figures which I'll cover on the fantasy channel, and I did buy for my samurai skirmish game some Ashigaru from a company called Assault Group Miniatures. So we'll be having a look at those on the samurai playlist as well. I know that one has lagged really far behind. That was something I wanted to get up and running quite quickly, but I've still got some figures to paint. Well, now I've got some Ashigaru figures to paint as well. I've got some card buildings to make, so that's going to be a little while, but hopefully over Christmas I can make a start on those. So yes, some nice Ashigaru figures, some nice fantasy figures, and as I mentioned, I got some books as well. So the first book I got is called Roman Special Forces and Special Ops by Simon Elliott, and this is partly out of interest but partly research for my latest book, which for those of you who know Robert E. Howard, the author of Conan, it's a sequel to his story Worms of the Earth that was set in Roman Britain about sort of third, 4th century. So I've been doing a lot of research into that era, and this is excellent because this really covers what you might call the sort of special units that the Roman army had. So they might have been for reconnaissance, they might have been for spying, they might have been for policing different areas. And what Simon Elliott does in this book, he goes back through all the historical records for these units, and he's sort of asking the question, are they really what we would call special forces units today? And some of them are and some of them aren't. But it's a fascinating and really well researched book, an aspect of the Roman military that we don't often see. Everyone talks about, you know, the legions and the battles and everything else. This is much more those sort of small scale units, and I think with that you get much more of a personal touch. Of course he looks into writings from the time and everything else. So research, but also very interesting area. Simon Elliott, Roman Special Forces and Special Ops. My next book is an Osprey title. It's World War II Combat Reconnaissance Tactics. I'm sure you're all familiar with the wide range of Osprey books, and I like these ones where they take a particular sort of type of unit or a type of tactics or strategy and take a closer look. So it's Second World War and it covers all the major powers. And I thought actually what was interesting with this was the similarities between this and that book on the Roman units, who of course used scouts and reconnaissance. And there was one thing I really noticed was how, yes, Second World War they're using jeeps, armoured cars, all that sort of thing, but the Germans and the Russians in particular also made a lot of use of cavalry units, right? Which just harkens right back to those Roman times. So I guess in war, as in everything else, some things never change. Anyway, this is a great look at the tactics of those reconnaissance units, and one reason I was interested in this was I'd like to get back into World War II skirmish gaming. Small units, maybe a platoon of infantry, an AFV or two on each side. And this of course gives you lots of ideas not only for your battlefield tactics but also for scenarios as well, because there's a lot of reports from actual encounters in here as well. Following on from that, and quite by chance, I found this set of World War II skirmish rules. Funny how things work out, isn't it? And these are called A Corner of Hell, Rules for World War II Skirmish Gaming at Section and Platoon Level, based on the At Close Quarters system. And these are by Chris Pears. I'm not at all familiar with the At Close Quarters system, but that's something I'll be checking out. 2004, so they go back a little while, but in my eyes these are quite modern rules. And I've had a quick skim through so far. I've not had a proper read through or a play test. So what I'll do on the World War II channel is do a proper review of these at some time, and perhaps some of the other skirmish rules I've got as well. I'm collecting. I think I'm one of those people who I'm not always happy with just one set of rules. I like to get all different sets of rules in and quite often mix them up a little bit to make a sort of homebrew system. But anyway, I look forward to reading through those, and on first glance they look like a good comprehensive set of rules. And finally, I'd like to talk about Stage 2. And what I mean by that is Stage 2 of the Dragon's Teeth channel. I feel like we've sort of come to the end of Stage 1, and now we're going to progress things on into 2024. So when I first started the channel, I didn't really have any idea of the sort of response I'd get, and even a lot of the methods and the material is quite new. I do run a couple of other channels. I've got my martial arts channel, of course, and I run a channel for my books and publishing for Innsmouth Gold and my Innsmouth Book Club podcast. But filming gaming stuff is something very new, and I've been very pleased with the response so far. We're up to, I think we're almost at 90 subscribers at the moment. Be great to get that up to 100 by the end of the year. And I'm very grateful and would like to give a big thanks to everyone who has subscribed. Also, everyone who has commented, either on YouTube or down at the Gladiators on a Monday night or other places. So that has been very helpful and has encouraged me now to go on to Stage 2. So what's Stage 2 going to look like? Well, there's going to be some little changes. New backdrop, as we've already mentioned. There's going to be a new logo, some new music coming on the channel, some new graphics. In terms of the actual filming, everything so far has been a bit of an experiment in a way. I've been experimenting with various setups of lighting and the cameras I'm using. I've got a couple of cameras. I've got an old Sony video cam here. I've also got a GoPro that I use as well. And of course, well, with the GoPro especially, you basically just point it and press the button, right? Well, that's a start. But once you start sort of researching into this, you find there's all these different settings and you can do this and that and everything else. So I'm still working through a lot of those settings. The same with the light. The light setup here today is pretty basic. It does the job, but I want to start refining the lighting, the filming and everything else. I have been aware with some of the filming, particularly close-ups, things get a little bit blurry or the lighting is not quite right. So in the run up to Christmas and over Christmas, I'm going to be doing some research. I'm going to be trying different lighting setups, some different things on the camera, just to really bring things up a notch. Because I like to, if I'm doing something, I like to do it properly. I like to present it the best way I can. Now, in terms of content, I think things are going to be pretty much the same. I've got all these projects going on, of course. I already mentioned the samurai languishing. Well, we'll bring those back. I've got a load of Vampire Count 10mm figures turning up, pretty much a whole army. Going to be continuing with that. The Fantasy Skirmish, the World War II, and of course I will continue to do reviews of books, board games, and probably get into looking at some films and documentaries as well. And also, as far as the content goes, I mean, I'm very much open to suggestion. Anything that you think would be interesting to present or to do something on, just send in your suggestions and I'll happily take a look. I'm going to continue going to events, of course. I've got one lined up in London. We've been invited down to the Modifius event in central London, so I'm looking forward to getting down there, do a report, and hopefully grab 1 or 2 people for interviews as well. If the channel does continue to grow, I'll also maybe look at setting up a Patreon page, which I have for my other projects. I've already set up a Discord. Now, I don't use Discord much myself at the moment, though I am getting more and more into it. But I've noticed certainly the Bedford Gladiators one is getting busier, and the Hobby Hive, our friends in Bedford, the Hobby Hive Discord is absolutely heaving with chat. So it would be nice to get something similar for Dragon's Teeth, just a place where people can have a chat and swap ideas backwards and forwards and so on. Oh, and I will be getting some merch out as well, because everyone likes a t-shirt and a mug, right? My Innsmouth Gold store is now up and running on Redbubble, and again, over the next few weeks, the run up to Christmas, I'm going to be putting some Dragon's Teeth designs up on there. So keep an eye out for those. Of course, I'll keep you posted as and when they're ready. That's the end of the news then. No weather report, I'm afraid. But yeah, sheds, shopping, stage 2. Thanks again for all your support on the channel. If you haven't already, please do like, share and subscribe, as it really will help the channel grow. And as always, please do let me know any of your comments, suggestions or questions. So, lots of things to look forward to. Here's to an excellent gaming year in 2024.